Well, that's more like it. We like that better than we like last night. 6-2 loss last night, but out a 4-0 win. Congrats right off the hop, Smitty, to Sam Ersson. You know, there's probably certain moments for professional athletes, getting drafted, playing your first professional game, playing your first National Hockey League game. I sound like Goatee, National Hockey League, and getting your first win. But I will tell you, from a goaltending standpoint, getting your first shutout is truly an arrival. And Sam Ersson's been good. He was 40 seconds from it the other day in his last game against Anaheim. But tonight, 40 seconds didn't matter. He gets the goose egg. He gets the shutout, and the Flyers win 4-0. And they shut out the highest scoring team in the league. That's
do it, isn't it?
Yeah, right? I mean, I didn't predict that for tonight.
From what I can see in America, don't even phantoms. Right. And in the course of his last 3 seasons in Sweden, so certainly was accustomed to it there. I mean, the one year he had a 1.95 goals against average in 36 games. I mean, he was something. That was in Sweden's second league.
Yeah, Tier 2.
So you're right. I mean, it's a milestone night for him, and there's lots of milestones. People forget sometimes that when these guys get to the NHL, it's the last step in a long path, and it doesn't always mean that they're going to stay here. But when certain things happen that are first, you get your first game, and for a goalie, it's a big thing to get that first shutout. So kudos to him, and it's definitely a good spot the Flyers are in goaltending wise right now.
Yeah, it really is. He was excellent in the game tonight. He did almost cause some self-inflicted wounds with his playing the puck. And I thought Coatsy brought up such a good point that I didn't even think of. When playing the puck, he is still used to the international size rink, which is much wider, so players are covering more ice and likely not as compact as they are in the NHL, and there's more room behind the net. It's a great point, but he survives it, and he gets the shutout, and he gets the win. 28 saves tonight, Bri. And here's Ersson by the numbers since that Carolina game, and he gave up the 5 goals and was pulled and ultimately went back in, didn't give anything up. But in the 4 games now since, all wins, he has seen 114 total shots. He has got 108 saves. He's allowed 6 goals. That is a .947 save percentage. We've seen some excellent stretches of goaltending this year. Carter Hart's had several really good stretches, including obviously the way he was in the very beginning of the year and at other points during this season. And now Ersson with .947 over 4 games. It's not a tiny sample size anymore.
No,
that's pretty. Those are pretty absurd numbers.
Yeah, they're good numbers, and he seems to be certainly getting accustomed to that ice size difference that they have. The numbers in question seem to be that there's 2 feet more depth behind the net in Europe, and obviously it's another 15 feet wide. So, if you're Sam Ersson coming off that left post and you look up, for your whole life, that player has taken a heck of a lot longer to get to him than you did tonight.
And there's a lot more traffic you got to fight through at the NHL on the tighter ice. I remember when they had the lockout in 2013, I think it was, Semyon Varlamov. I remember reading an article that, he had played in the NHL. Then during the lockout, went over and played, I think, in the KHL on the bigger ice. And he said when he came back, it was the whole readjustment of getting used to the smaller ice and traffic all over again. It was a nightmare for him, he said. Yeah, and that was a guy that played in the NHL prior and had success.
Yeah, very, very had a whole lot of his success. Yeah, it certainly is. The only thing I can come off the top of my head to kind of compare it to is you go from here to England and you have to drive on the left side of the road. You get used to it over there eventually, but then you come back home and then you got to get all used to driving on the right again. It's just it's that much of a difference for a goaltender. So I feel like he's made the adjustment faster than Felix Sandstrom has, just in just my own personal recollection of it. Sandstrom had even more time in the ECHL before COVID than Ersson has had to this point. So it certainly does seem like he's been able to, for whatever reason, to just snap into that a little bit better. And tonight's a game that obviously he's the number one star. He's the reason for the shutout in the long run. But it's a team effort in that it wasn't a shutout where he had to make 47, 48 saves. I mean, the Flyers really did a great job of, I thought, of limiting the chances that the Buffalo Sabres team had, especially considering what this team has done this year. And much like I thought, if I was Buffalo, I wouldn't want to play the Flyers tonight. Well, the Seattle Kraken are in Montreal right now. They're coming to Buffalo to play the Sabres tomorrow. And I feel kind of bad for Dave Haxtell's team, because I think they're going to hit a Buffalo Sabres team that's going to be in ill humor from the moment they take the ice tomorrow.
Yeah, I would agree. They're going to be a team that's going to want to get this taste out of their mouth, like the Flyers did with the Leafs going into this game tonight. And let's get to the BetRivers.com highlight reel. Flyers end up out shooting Buffalo in the game 38-28. And let's get to the highlights. And we start in the first period rather early in the game, as a matter of fact. Flyers, this is something they haven't done a ton of this year, scoring the first goal in a game and winning the game. But at 2:04 in, the Flyers get on the board. They get it from their fourth line when Zach McEwen picks up his fourth of the season. Playoff 4, Pat. Yeah, a bit of a no-frills goal there, Smitty. Just kind of driving to the net, getting that puck, and just putting it by Anderson, and you'll take it.
It's the kind of goal that your fourth line gives you. It's a hard-working goal. I think last night's goal for Delorier was about as razzle-dazzle as you typically get from a fourth line goal.
Yeah, that wasn't a fourth line goal last night by Delorier. Frankly, that was a second line goal.
But those are the goals that your fourth line puts forth for you, and it always feels like a fourth line goal is like a 3-pointer in basketball, kind of. It just gives your team a little bit more energy than a first or second line goal. Obviously, a 3-pointer gives you one more point, and a fourth line goal does not give you any more points. But just the energy that it provides to your bench, I feel that's kind of what I feel like it's like. So, for the Flyers to get a goal from that line and get it 2 minutes in, I feel like that might have had something to do with how they played the rest of this period.
Yeah, that's a good comparison, by the way. Delorier and Patrick Brown get the assists, and the Flyers go up 1-0. Tons more pressure between goal 1 and goal 2, which comes at 13:31. This time it's Joel Farabee. He picks up his 9th of the season. Yeah, Farabee snaps that one. That is one that Craig Anderson's not going to want to look back on in film, because he tied himself into a knot.
Yes. Yeah, that's again, happy to see him having some success in Buffalo this year. Was hoping he wouldn't have any tonight, or not have much, and that was the case, I guess. But again, he's done everything he's been asked to do for this team to this point. And we were in the pregame show, we weren't entirely sure what was going on. It does look like Eric Comrie has just come back from a rehab assignment in Rochester. And at the moment, the Sabres are going to carry 3 goalies. And that probably has something to do with the influence that Craig Anderson has on the other 2, just in the way he's carried himself throughout his career. So, but obviously, Carter had an off night last night. Every goalie's going to have an off night from time to time. And the Flyers, they didn't win this game because Craig Anderson had an off night in that first period, but it certainly helped what they were able to do to the Sabres in that first 20 minutes.
Yeah, and my daughter's singing upstairs. I observe. I'm like, what is that? I am on the air, and you don't want to be. But Farabee picks up his 9th goal of the season. Travis Sanheim and Travis Konechny pick up the assist. Flyers go up 2-0. Then at 14:58 of the first period, that rounds out the scoring in the first, when Noah Cates, relentless play by Cates here, eventually picking up his 5th goal of the season. Yeah, Konechny picks up yet another assist there, another multi-point game for Travis Konechny. Farabee also picks up the point. He gets a multi-point game as well. That's how we'd end the first period. Flyers up 3-0. No blood in the second period. And head to the third. And you knew that Buffalo was going to push here, thinking, okay, it's a 3-0 game. We're a team that scores a lot of goals. If we can get the next one, we can put ourselves in a great position. But that's not the case. I don't know what Owen Power was doing off this faceoff, because he just watched Wade Allison skate right by him, right to a perfect spot. Kevin Hayes fed him, and Wade Allison picks up his 5th. To me, Bri, the assist from Kevin Hayes, just an absolutely beautiful assist. He collects that puck off the faceoff, and there's nobody around Wade Allison, but this is kind of that further proof. Owen Power is a number 1 overall draft choice, and that to have success on the blue line in the NHL, you got to have some years and games of experience, and he's going to be showing the tape of this because he literally just watched him.
And it was Cale Clegg was standing there too.
I'm like, they just sleptwalk through it.
Allison backs past both of them, and it's not like what happened. Remember what was happening to the Flyers in the first month of the year? They had guys sneaking around behind the net and coming by defensemen and tapping in goals. That's not what happened here. He cruised between both of them like he was cloaked or something. It was strange.
Like he took an invisible pill.
they were watching. Hayes was 20 feet away. It was like they were both focused in on him, and everything that was close to them didn't exist, and he just right between them. It was remarkable.
I watched it like 3 times. I'm like, why did he not even try to put a stick in there? It's like he was going to that spot on Wonder Woman's invisible jet.
It was it was close to one of those things that we see the controller disconnected. Just. Oh, yeah. Hey, look at that. Hey, he scored. Oops, whoops. Yep. But Flyers will take it,
Yeah. And that's a big goal, too. And not only that, I remember texting a few people at the game the other night and saying, boy, Wade Allison looks like he's right there again. And, back from the injury and playing that straight north-south game again and not east-west in his way out of the lineup. And he's really on it right now. And that's a good sign. That's a good depth.
And again, I had an inkling that maybe when Wade came back from that last injury, and then he had a couple of close calls, that might have just dinged his confidence a little bit. I don't know if confidence is the word, but it might have just made him feel a little hesitant. Like, the poor kid has made
him feel fragile.
Yeah, I mean, he's just had such rotten luck with injuries going all the way back to college. 2 ACLs at Western Michigan. He comes here. High ankle sprain in the rookie game, misses half a season, and then what happened to him earlier this year. So when he did that, it was almost the same thing that injured his hip earlier this year. That's when I got to think, man, I hope that doesn't just make him play tentative, because that's the worst way to get hurt. And I think he's gotten through that now, especially these last 2 nights with these 2 goals. I think that's really gonna kind of help hopefully project him in the right direction.
You always wonder in sports, is that theory of the movie Unbreakable, is that real? Some people in your life always are getting hurt and other people never get hurt. Is he the Samuel L. Jackson, right? Or is he the Bruce Willis? Maybe he's not the Bruce Willis, but it doesn't have to be Samuel L. Jackson either that breaks a bone no matter what happens. So,
right.
And staying injury-free and staying in the lineup. And Wade's certainly playing some pretty good hockey right now. Kevin Hayes picks up an assist there as well. Again, multi-point performance for Travis Konechny yet again. He continues to pile up the points. Kevin Hayes as well ends up on the score sheet. Tony DeAngelo, I thought, bounced back in a good performance tonight, Bri. And, that's great to see that he, A, got back in the lineup, and B, I thought he was pretty effective in this game tonight, really bear down, especially in the neutral and D zone.
Yeah, it was again. I think last night was a bit of an aberration, and because Tony DeAngelo is a bit of a polarizing figure, it might have gotten a little more attention than normal. I just kind of feel like it was again an individual version of what the entire team went through last night. It wasn't just Tony DeAngelo was screwing up; it was the entire. He just was kind of at the forefront of it, and so he had a good reset tonight. Themselves did too, and it's again just one of those things that happens. From the team standpoint, kind of thought that they'd use last night as a learning tool, and there's no question that they were able to do so here tonight. So I mean, one of the things I was thinking earlier is, can you imagine if the Flyers didn't have this game tonight? And they play last night.
Chew on it for a couple of days.
Sit in it for all of today, all of tomorrow. They have to go up against Washington on Wednesday. I mean, this is a game changer for the rest of the week for this team right now. And who knows how long it might have carried on. I mean, they're going into next week with some teams that they should be beating, and it could have started a tailspin. So it's a really fortunate thing, I think, that the schedule just happened to do what it did and stick this game in here tonight a couple of weeks ago, because it really could help this team a whole lot here in the short term and maybe the medium term, I guess.
Yeah, you beat a good team on the road and you shut them out, and Tony DeAngelo bounces back immediately as well after basically sitting for 2 periods. He played 22-18. Only one Flyer player played more minutes than him. And how about this? I always say, judge how a coach feels about a player by not by his words, but by his usage. Cam York, 24-14 in the game. Each player, DeAngelo and York, saw exactly 3 minutes on the power play as well. So that's not the difference. But Cam York, 24-14 in this game, most minutes for Flyer. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back and have more here on the Flyers post-game show as the Flyers get their first shutout of the season and the first career shutout for goaltender Samuel Ersson. We're back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. Oh, my God. Eric, log off for the night, brother. He got shut out. Got a shutout quicker than Hart did. Do we have a goalie problem now that I see Torts going? Why is that a problem? Because the other goalie got a shutout. And because he got one before Hart. I can't even dignify it with a response. Oh, my God.
Do we have a goalie controversy?
Pat from Ambler. Pat, what's going on, buddy? That guy. Yeah. He messages me on Facebook or puts on a status that Sam Ersson's better than Carter Hart and we should trade Carter Hart. He said it's a hot take, and I go, a hot take? That's not a hot take. That's a way too premature take. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah. Call me. Tell me what time you need me to call in and bat him around a little bit.
I'm going. Go on Twitter. Not sure when he's under.
Then one of his guys on this thing goes, I agree with you. Carter can't stop a nosebleed at this point. Some is on the defenseman, but definitely is becoming just a guy in net at this point. Oh, my God. The environment matters. When I give up a bad goal in beer league, what do I say? Environment matters. When Egan scored on me, environment mattered. And now Eric goes, now I can see people starting a goalie controversy. Oh, my God. Stop. There's no controversy. Why do we always have to make such definitive statements in sports anymore? God. It's so
And
dumb.
it always has to be a bad thing. Right?
Trade him for Connor McDavid. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to stay off social media tonight, Smitty. People just want to make such definitive. The guy got a shutout, and it's awesome. Sam Erson's played great. I told you the numbers. He's had 108 saves on 114 shots since the Carolina game, and he's got a 947 save percentage. I'm not ready to hand him a couple Vezinas, a cup, and a Conn Smythe just yet. And I'm a goalie apologist.
We wouldn't do well as radio hosts in Toronto, would we?
No, we would not. Oh, man. People want to go, holy controversy. It's good to have two goalies in today's NHL. This is not the league where, the Marty Brodeur days of playing 75 games. You can't do that anymore. I guess you could, but it wouldn't be good.
It's been less than 2 weeks. 2 weeks tomorrow, I think, right?
That he started?
Right? Yeah.
It'll be 2 weeks from Friday.
Friday? Okay. Yeah, less than 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Calm down.
Yeah. It's great. Sam played awesome tonight. He is the number one star. There's no doubt about it. And it's a great win for the Flyers. And they will move on Wednesday for game one of the home and home against the Washington Capitals. I guess part of it, though, Bri, is that there is a decision to be made by John Tortorella. Carter's not coming off his best performance against Toronto. Those games happen. He hasn't been his sharpest point of the season. Does he go back to Sam Ersson coming up on Wednesday at home against Ovechkin, Oshie, Backstrom, Carlson, and that Capitals team?
Yeah, it certainly would not
hurt.
I think he does. And again, I think he does it because they're playing poorly. I think he does it because Ersson is playing well. And again, it's a light week game-wise. However, it's going to be a light week next week. Flyers have to play Boston at 1 o'clock on Monday afternoon. That's not going to be a whole lot of fun, deal with that team circumstance. But when you have to get up in the get up early in the morning and go play that team in the afternoon, that's a tough call. So that's a game that Carter probably gets just because of his experience doing it. Then they come back to Philadelphia, and they've got a back-to-back the next night against Anaheim, and then the 3 and 4 continues with Chicago coming in, and then another back-to-back coming up that next weekend, against Detroit and Winnipeg, 21st, 22nd, and that's got travel. So the schedule is going to pick back up, and they're going to be using both of them. And so, for the Flyers to, sit here and look at the schedule and say, okay, we're going to maybe go through these next 2 weeks playing these goalies sort of evenly. Maybe all the way to the end of the month in the All-Star break. I think that's absolutely just fine. The decision.
Well,
the
here's
Flyers
the issue, though, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when the conditioning assignment for
that is that's the decision the Flyers are going to have to make at some point. Either Sam Ersson is going to have to go back to Lehigh Valley, or Felix Sandstrom is going to have to go through waivers, and that is again the wizardry of Barry Hanrahan and the folks that know how to do this stuff. They were able to get around the problem at the moment by getting Felix Sandstrom to Lehigh Valley on what I believe is going to end up being a 2-week conditioning stint. And I think that may have something to do with their schedule. They just don't have a ton of games right now. Their All-Star break is floating around in here somewhere. I'm not sure entirely when it is, but he's going to get a full 2 weeks down there. And then, the Flyers are going to have to make a decision. So can they sneak him through waivers? I don't know. Do you?
You couldn't sneak if he was waived.
Yeah,
you wouldn't sneak Ersson through now. If he had
right now. So, it is going to be a pretty interesting day when that decision comes and they have to do something about it. Yep. And again, unfortunately, the Flyers are in a halfway decent situation right now. The problem is if they don't get them through waivers, and they end up now they've just got Ersson and Hart, they're one injury away from a real problem.
Yeah. So Grosnick when he comes back,
right? And I should know this. Is he on an NHL deal? I assume he is.
Yeah.
So he'll be there. But that's it's very easy to go from too many goalies to not enough, as the Flyers have found out in past years.
Would they go 8-9 deep that one year with McKenna and Cal, whatever his name was?
Yeah, 18, 8, and 9, but they also went 8 deep the year they went to the final. I mean, remember Sebastian Caron?
No.
He was on the bench.
Caron, I know that, though.
He was on the bench when Bush won the shutout against the New York Rangers. He never played, but he was the backup for that game. He's in the photos. Like, you see him skating around on the ice. Like, who's that guy?
Wow, I did not know he was Bush's backup in that game.
He never played, but the Flyers had to bring him in. I don't even remember where they got him, but they had to put him in uniform for that
the
game.
Olli Jokinen shootout stop.
Yep. Wow. You go through that playoffs. I think Johan Backlund at one point was a backup in that playoff run.
Yeah, Montreal.
It was.
I watched the game with him.
It was a crazy. That was the year that Ray Emery had to. We thought it was going to end his career, and fortunately for him, he was able to come back and win a cup in Chicago.
Yeah.
It was a crazy year. So yeah, it's very easy to go from riches to rags in the number of goaltenders you have, and it's designed to help the player, so the player doesn't get buried in the minors if somebody else wants him in the NHL. But it could put the Flyers in an interesting spot.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one crease. It's not like another position where you go, you play 45 seconds and go off and come back on.
Now, like we were saying earlier, you look at Buffalo. They're going to carry 3 goalies for the time being, and I
think that's just Comrie is not waiver exempt,
right? And the amount of attention that draws shows you how rare it is, because you get in practice, like you said, there's only 2 creases in practice. You have 3 goalies. It it's not something you can do for a long period of time. So it's it is going to be kind of interesting to see what they end up doing.
Yeah, just managing that is not ideal by any stretch of the imagination. But congrats to Sam Ersson on his first NHL shutout, and then we'll see what the decision is come Wednesday when the Flyers start that home with the Washington Capitals and look to avenge a couple losses against the Caps earlier this season. One in overtime, as a matter of fact, as well, where they had too many men on the ice. I haven't forgiven that yet, and I probably won't. So the Flyers will be back in action coming up on Wednesday. We'll be back then as well. Let's thank a few people before we get out of here. How about let's start with our in-studio engineer? How about Pat Egan? Even though this game wasn't on the schedule, he made it on the schedule. He earned it.
Well done.
Yeah, he did a good job tonight. Pat, who was on highlights tonight? Oh, Lauren Fantini, last employed at the Fanatic about a decade ago. She was on highlights tonight. That was actually Matt Menard. For Tim Saunders, Steve Coates, Brian Smith, I'm Jason Bertidis. You've been listening to Philadelphia Flyers Hockey, a 4-0 shutout win over the Buffalo Sabres on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. Good night, everybody. Fantini, you're a